All right, everyone, welcome. Today, I'm super excited to have my friend Jason Vander Griendt coming in from Australia. And Jason,
Canada.
sorry, Canada, my bad, man. I've been talking with so many Aussies, I'm getting mixed up. Canada, I'm in Japan. It's early in the morning, so if I get my countries mixed up again, please forgive me.
We'll blame it on that, a lack of sleep.
Yeah. So, and Jason has been generous enough to give us a private masterclass training on mindset and what he's doing to not only sustain his business during COVID, but also thrive. So I'm really curious to, what he's doing. So before we begin, for those of you that are watching live, if you can please type in your name and where you're calling from or where you're watching from, just to know who's here. We'd appreciate that. So welcome, Jason. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good. I'm actually pretty good. What's interesting about working online, I'd say, maybe you're familiar with this or people listening are familiar, is when you work online, you just stay home all the time anyway because you're working online. So it's not like you have to go to work. So when people are like, how are you coping? And blah, blah, I'm like, I've been staying home for like 7 years now. So it's not really has an effect. It doesn't mean I'm a hermit. I go out for dinners and lunches and stuff. So that's the only thing that's changed really. But for the most part, I wake up, I work at home, and then I just don't go out for dinner anymore. That's all that's changed.
Right. And I think for a lot of e-commerce entrepreneurs, either working from home or, not going into like a formal office, we kind of have a leg up on everyone else because we're more used to like these online tools. Maybe we already have a workspace, but I mean, at least for me, it is kind of challenging because, sometimes I would work from like a WeWork or from like a cafe, but that's not an option right now. So even right now.
It's a small change. It's a small change, and I'll say so. That's like personal wise, things are pretty much the same. But business wise, what's interesting is April is on target to be a record month, and March I'd say was in my top 5 months of all time. January, February were also very strong months, and I think that the reason for that is. At first, I didn't really know. I was kind of worried. I was like, we might take a little dip here in business. But what's interesting is it's actually exploded. And I think the reason for that is a lot of competition is not online. And they have offices to go to and brick and mortar places to go to. So I've operated my business from the beginning strictly online, no meetings. That's just how it works. And for that reason, when my competition closes, then there's less places for people to go to get things done. Again, my businesses are engineering, architecture, a little bit of marketing. Those are the main things. And so when there's less places to go to, I get all the traffic, right? Because I'm still open for business. Because I don't have an office. All my employees don't go to an office. We all work from wherever we are in the world. So that's kind of interesting. And the other interesting thing too is online marketing costs have dropped. I don't know if it's about 50%, but the cost per click is a lot less because a lot of competition shut off their ads because they're like, well, we're closed, so don't market, right? So my cost per click is a lot cheaper. I'm getting a lot more clients. So obviously the margins are a lot better too.
Right. So yeah, it sounds like your business it's improving, and also you're pivoting very quickly with fewer competitors able to pivot, given that. But before we dive deeper into that, I just wanted to welcome a couple of people that we're seeing online here. So welcome Jackie from Sydney, Andrew from Queensland, Gurdeep from UK, and Lori Jane from Central Texas. So we have people from all over the world. Super excited everyone can join us.
Hi guys.
Yeah, good to see everyone. All right, so let's unpack that a little bit more. So do you think that like the main reason, if I understand correctly, Jason, like you're doing better is because the fact you are more well positioned to take advantage of, doing business mainly online, while some of your offline competitors, they may be like slower to react. Is that the gist of it?
I think that the main thing is that I'm fully online. So there's no office. Like in Canada here, well, most of the world is shut down, right? Like unless you're an essential service, you can't really be open. So all of those businesses are closed. And then there's I have an engineering business, I have an architecture business. Both businesses, there's no reason to have an office and people come into the office and meet. It can be done like we're doing right now, right? We can meet clients from anywhere in the world face to face, even though that's really rare. Most common is just email communication. Second most common, but I try not to do that, is phone communication, because usually conversations drag on and I have things to do. So everything is mostly email, and so it's a very online business friendly business. Like there's no in person. So any engineering company or architecture company that I compete with, they're closed because they have an office and everybody comes to the office, and then they have meetings with their clients and all that. So they've probably told all their clients, hey, we're closed. And then any new clients, or maybe there's clients that have things they need to do while they're closed, while the world's kind of on shutdown. If things need to be done, they're looking for somebody else to do it, and that's where I can do it, right? So I think that's the main thing. And it's not like I had that planned. It's just the benefit of being online. It's not like I planned, like, one day if there's a virus and I'll get to stay open. It's just luck of the draw. But I guess I think I told you I was interviewed by Forbes a couple weeks ago, and they were asking about some advice about how I'm positioning my business to get through the whole thing. And I think so. The main thing I think would be for example, if I was a competition, if I was an engineering company or an architecture company that is closed, think about why are you closing? Why not just do it virtually? You can do it virtually, just like I'm doing, right? So, but your business might not be engineering or architecture, but whatever your business is, think about, do we really need to close? Can't we just do it over the phone or Skype or email? Like, do we really need to meet and discuss these things in person? No, probably not. It's not necessary. So that was the main thing. The advice I had for the Forbes journalist was, think about how you run your business, and then all the meetings that you had, and realize you can eliminate all those meetings and just do them virtually. And then the next second step, so once you have that figured out, the next second step would be to email or call all your clients and say, hey, while we're in lockdown, we're still open, and this is how we're operating, right? So just an email blast to your list, or if you have a small list, then you can call everybody personally and just say, hey, this is how we're going to do some things while we're closed. And I think that would it would open your doors again a little bit. Maybe you can't do everything, maybe you can just do some things, and that brings in a little bit of revenue. So, because the worst thing to do is close the doors. If you can operate remotely and just do maybe 50% of what you do normally, then that's that would help for sure.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And be proactive, right? Email, call your clients, let them know that you're still open for business. Yeah. And then excellent.
And then I'll add one more thing, one more tip I had for that was so like a couple of weeks ago when Canada started locking down, I had my website guys put on the top, like a banner on the top of all my websites, all my businesses, like, during the COVID crisis, we are 100% open for business, or whatever message I wanted to say for that business. And then click here to learn more, and it would go to a blog and explain, during this crisis, this is how we're operating. So, this service is not available, but these services are available. So just kind of, hold on, let me just close this. Sorry about that.
No worries.
During the COVID crisis, this is how we're operating. So, and you can notify your clients, because right now, a lot of buyers of whatever you're selling, products or services, are searching for things they need, and then they go to the website and then they say like, oh, this is a great company, but they're probably closed. They're assuming you're closed, right? Because most companies are closed. So if you put it right in their face when they land on your homepage or whatever page, that, hey, we're still open, and here's how we're operating during the crisis, like, update your website. That's the number one thing. Quickly do that, so that the traffic coming to your website doesn't assume you're closed. They can see what's open, what you're offering still during the crisis. It also shows that you're very involved in your business, because this is such a recent thing that's happened. So if you're updating your website with that, they kind of say, oh, this company is on the ball. They're they've already updated the website. So that's a big thing you can do too. That, because I noticed a lot of people, the first couple of days, companies or customers would call and say, are you guys still open, or what? How are you guys operating. And then I was like, ding, put it on the site, because if they're thinking that, other people are thinking it too, but not picking up the phone and calling, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Listening to your customers' questions, like their concerns, and just addressing that up front. And then I also remember reading, I think it was in the Forbes article as well, like you're really fast when it comes to any like questions or inquiries from customers. Like you just reply within like 10 minutes or something like that. Is that true? Is that
5 minutes. Well, like, within a minute, usually, like it's like super fast. It's a good sign when your customers say, I don't know if this is an automated message or if this is a real person. I get that all the time. Like every day somebody says that. I don't know if this is automated. And then I'll reply to that within 30 seconds. And yes, it is automated. Or, sorry, it's not automated. I'm a real person, and here I am. Ask me anything you want. So I go really quick. And the reason for that is early on when I started in business, I noticed, like, I'd see a lead come in or a contact form or an email come in from a customer, and then I'd kind of look at it and say, yeah, okay, I'll answer it in a bit. Like I didn't know there was a rush back then, so I go do whatever I wanted to do, go make lunch, go for a walk, or do what I got to do. Answer it in a few hours, and then very often the people would say, sorry, we already started with somebody else. It's like it's fast. With online business, it's you got to be quick because you're going to lose all those. That's like thousands of dollars over the lifetime of that customer. And then times how many customers you're doing that with. So right away I was like, hey, new rule, answer immediately. Because what that does is a lot of customers work for another company, right? There's B2B, business to business, and their boss said, hey, go find a company that can do this. And then so they have a little bit of anxiety. Like, oh, I better get this done by the end of the day. The boss wants this done by the end of the day, right? So when they go and email all these companies, they do a Google search and they find all these companies that can do it, and then nobody really answers them. The boss is like, hey, what, did you get that done? No, nobody answered me. They just, when you answer right away, you make them look good, and then they're gonna go to you over any other company that took too long to answer, right? Other companies might have answered in an hour or 2 hours, but you answered immediately. So that person's going to go to you because you removed their anxiety about the task that you had, right? You make them look like the boss is going to say, did you get that done? And they're going to say, yes, actually, I called this company. We talked for 10 minutes about this, and they're going to do it for $1,000. And the boss is like, wow, good job. You got it done.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind from your perspective when you're selling your services or products. Keep that in mind, that fast response. A lot of the time your customers are going to be working for a company and you make them look good by being quick. So you close more deals, right?
Right. Yeah, 100%.
I'll add on to that. What happens a lot is the same company, somebody in the same company with the same email address, like the whatever.com, the URL, it's in the same company. So your name gets thrown around in that company. Like, this company is great. They answer really quick. And so referrals explode. So everything, there's no downside to answering fast. You have to answer them anyway. So why not answer them right away? That's just how I operate. And I mean, it's my business exploded when I started doing that.
I see. And then how do you answer so fast when you have like so many other things to do, right? I mean, like, that's my struggle. I mean, I have emails I know I should answer, but some people say that you should like batch your emails at certain times of the day, just so that you can, have more time to do all of your deep work, so to speak. I'm just curious, like, how do you manage that?
Well, a lot of my emails for business are canned responses. So they're just like a customer's inquiring about a quote, what's the price of this, or how long does this take, or questions. And I'd say I have maybe 20 canned responses for the 20 most common questions. And here's the response. So my emails literally take 3 seconds to write. I'll just hit reply and then canned response number 8. And I put change the name to Gary and send. That's it. That's all I do. So it's like boom, boom, emails. I'm sending 200 or 300 emails a day, but it's just like 2 or 3 seconds per email.
Yeah, that's a great hack. Yeah. Is there
Gmail,
like
Gmail, and it has a canned response feature in the bottom right corner. There's a little arrow, and you can set up canned responses. So you type it once, and then you never type it again.
Perfect. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, that's great. And for those of you guys watching, if you have any questions for Jason, just type in the chat window, and then we'll get to those at the end as well. All right. So yeah, that's awesome, Jason. So these were a couple of hacks that you mentioned in your Forbes interview, and I'm curious, what about in terms of just the mindset right now? Because I know you talk a lot about the different lessons you've learned along the way in your entrepreneurial journey. As you built your business to $1 million. I'm curious, what would you like to share with those watching today to help them stay positive and productive during these tough times?
For sure, during these tough times, I'd say the main thing to be aware of that I think people are kind of catching on to anyway is maybe your income has dropped, like maybe you're working less hours, maybe you got laid off, maybe your business is dropping, maybe your business is closed or whatever, but so your income's lower. But also it's important to remember that your expenses are also way lower because there's nothing to spend your money on, right? Except the basics, food. That's even like clothes. You're not really buying any new clothes because you're not going anywhere. So you're just wearing whatever you already have, right? So your expenses are probably, it hasn't ever been this low since the Great Depression or something, right? Like expenses are pretty much absolute basic. So don't worry so much that your income has dropped. Realize your expenses has also dropped. And I kind of saw this the first couple of weeks of being in lockdown, that I noticed, like, usually I do my every morning I log into my bank accounts and I just look at where money's going and make sure money's flowing, because, and that's a little lesson too. I've read in numerous books that the owner of a business, they let somebody else do all the banking and accounting and stuff. It depends what business size you have, but I like to see what's going on. And the reason, because they'll let somebody else do it and then months go by and then all of a sudden tons of money is missing. And maybe the bookkeeper stole it. Maybe something happened and money was leaking out somewhere and it shouldn't have been going there. Maybe they're paying for some membership they didn't need anymore and it just kept getting charged. So I like to know about those things and like right now, not months down the road when thousands of dollars are gone, right? So anyway, I log into my bank every morning and I just look at what's going on and just kind of balance things. Numerous bank accounts, and I just look around. But I noticed that, like, wow, there's money coming in, but there's like no money coming out. It's just staying here for a change, right? Usually you go for dinners and traveling and all kinds of different things. There's so many things to spend your money on, as you know. So yeah, that was just a little kind of a wake up call. Like, yeah, okay. Even if my business did drop, I'm spending hardly anything. So it's not that panicky, I guess, you know.
Right. So it's kind of like that bathtub analogy, right? Like the water is leaking out more slowly than the water is draining in, because that's like your cash flow. You don't want it to go empty, obviously. So you gotta watch both. Yeah.
It's different if your income just goes to zero, but your expenses stay the same. That's kind of that's not a good position to be in. But it's kind of it's a little bit balanced out, right? Especially if you're getting. In Canada, we have employment insurance, and I know in the US, they're giving people, employment insurance. People are getting laid off, so they got to give them some kind of income to buy food and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, like my sister, for example, she is making more money just staying home than when she was working because because of employment insurance, right? So she at first she was like, "Oh my God, I got laid off! Like I can't believe, what am I gonna do?" She's kind of like freaking out. But then after a couple of weeks, she's like, actually, I'm better off financially just staying home. And she has 2 kids, so she loves it. She gets to stay home with her kids. And so she'll just ride this out and there's not really anything to worry about. Same thing. She's making more because she's spending way less than when she was working.
Right. And I think similarly, a lot of people around the world, they can take advantage of these types of government like stimulus packages. Besides just unemployment, like in the US, the government is offering, I think, $1,700 if you're below the income threshold. And also with small businesses, US government is offering like small business loans. I think some of them are like forgivable. Like even if it's default on it, you don't have to pay, that money back. I mean, there's a cap to it as well. I know like other countries are offering similar subsidies you can take advantage of. I don't know, Jason, are you exploring these options as well to help your business during these times?
No, I don't, like I said, April's like a record month for me, so I can't. I don't have to brag, but I don't need it. And even if I did apply, like, what are you doing? There's people that need this way more than you. So,
right. That makes sense.
I'm not interested in it, but I do have some friends in business, and like they'll have restaurants, or one guy has a fitness facility, a gym, and he's had to shut down. So he's exploring those options for sure, because I mean, his revenue's gone to zero, right? So definitely, if I had a business like that, I'd definitely be exploring those things. It's free money. Take this free money. Like in Canada with the employment insurance, I tell people, like, because I'm self-employed, I can never get it. If my business drops, it's not like I can apply for employment insurance. You have to be an employee paying into it to be able to get it, right? So I paid into it for 15 years working, but then I've had my own business for many years too, so I can't get it anymore. So all these people getting laid off, I'm like, take it. You paid into it. Get some of your money back, right?
Right.
Yeah,
sounds good. And in terms of mindset, so you mentioned on one hand, maybe your income dropped, but your expenses are way lower. What else? What are some other hacks that people can make the most out of this this time right now?
Another thing I think that I brought up in the Forbes article was reading books about people that went through difficult times, such as like especially the Great Depression. There's a lot of huge things that came out of the Great Depression. For example, Marriott hotels came out of that. Hilton, for some reason, hotels came out of the Great Depression. Huge. But there's a lot of books that I've read. Like I said, the Marriott story or the Hilton story. Those are really good books to read, because they talk about how difficult it was, and it was like really difficult. I'm not saying we're going into a Great Depression. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. But it's probably not going to be easy. Whatever happens out of this is probably not going to be so easy as it was a few months ago. So it's probably going to get difficult. But to inspire yourself, read books about people that went through difficult times and came out 10 times better than they went in, right? So that's always opened my mind, reading those books over the last many years. Just having that inspiration that, like, wow, these people, and it's really, because it's a time where a lot of opportunity reveals itself. For example, I'll talk about my business. So my architecture business, I started having a lot of clients calling, new clients, repeat clients calling. Do you guys do virtual reality, virtual tours? Because like people can't go to the properties anymore to see them and buy them, right? So so after a couple of days, it was only like 2 or 3 days of getting these inquiries, I was like light bulb went off, like, aha, opportunity, right? Let's we do that, but I haven't really been promoting it. It's just because people don't really need it or want it that much. Once in a while, somebody will ask for it and we'll do it. But it's not like we sell the just the pictures of real estate, which are we call them 3D renderings, right? So the virtual reality stuff is a much higher price point and less sales. So after a couple of days of getting these inquiries, I was like, okay, ding, let's pump this out. So I started writing these email series and all kinds. I just pumped it out, and then that was maybe 2 weeks ago, and I've sold tons of them in the last couple of weeks. So that's partly why I'm having a record month, because I saw an opportunity and then jump on it, right? So that's part of it, is that during difficult times, massive opportunities reveal themselves. So out of this, who knows? Maybe my company becomes the #1 virtual tour company in the world. I don't know, like, because I just really pumped it out, and other companies didn't. Other companies were closed, right? Other architecture firms were closed. I'm the only one open. So maybe out of this, that part of my business just thrives, right?
So
I don't know.
you saw, that makes a lot of sense. And then in terms of the virtual tours, I mean, that sounds really complicated. I mean, like, how are you able to, I mean, did you already have, something like this in your past experience, or did you hire some developers to do that? Like, how did that process look like?
So the way virtual tours works is we take a floor plan, like a blueprint that an architect would do, or if people don't have a blueprint, let's say whatever house you live in, you want to turn it into a virtual tour so somebody can tour it from wherever they are in the world. They don't have to come to your house. You can make a sketch, just pen and paper, draw some rectangles and squares, and this is the rough layout. Then we take pictures of the property. We don't have to take them. You take them, send them to us, and then we turn it into a link that you can just tour it. So you just send that link to whoever you want, and anybody can click on it and tour that property from wherever they are. And that can be on a computer, on a smartphone with the VR headset, whatever they want. It's a virtual tour. So it feels like you're in the house, like everything looks really real, but it doesn't actually exist. Yeah. So, and that's becoming a big thing that real estate agents, developers, independent people trying to sell their home and they can't have an open house. So here's a virtual tour of the property, right? So that's becoming a big thing. But yeah, so talking about opportunity, there's opportunity all over the place, and during difficult times, the biggest opportunities are available. One thing that sticks out for me is in the Marriott book. It's a really good book, and he talks about how, so before he started Marriott, he had a root beer stand back in the 20s, right? And he was selling root beer with his wife, and then so talking about opportunity, it was a difficult time, and people still want root beer. So he was selling root beer, and people would come into the store and they'd say, "Do you have anything else? Can I have something to eat?" And they'd say, "Oh no, we just have root beer." But then opportunity, right? Well, let's give these people something to eat. People are asking for something to eat. Why are we denying that? So they started selling hot dogs and tacos and different like fast food things, right? And then it came time to he saved money, and he said the margin was like 3% or something. It was a very small margin, and he said it came time that they had some money saved, so let's open another location. And him and his wife, after working for like 12 hours, 14 hours, they'd get in the car and they'd go sit at different intersections I think it was in Washington D.C. Different intersections, just sitting there waiting, counting cars driving by for hours, just to see how many cars drive by in like 2 hours, let's say, or an hour. And then they do another intersection and another intersection. And it went on for weeks. And the reason they did that is they wanted to see where's the most traffic. So if we open this root beer hot dog stand, where are we going to get the most traffic, right? So they had to put in a lot of work. It's not like Marriott just made a hotel and just made billions of dollars. He had to build this root beer stand from nothing and then put in that hours and hours of work, finding out where to put the second one and the third one and the fourth one and the fifth one until they had this franchise in Washington, D.C. Tons and tons of work. So the Marriott book is a pretty thick book. 3/4 of it is about all the hard work he did. And then the last quarter of it is about, and then we started a hotel chain, and then it really took off. So these books talk about how much work is involved to get started. Yeah. And so that's the inspiring part for me, that you work really hard, especially during difficult times, and then opportunities get revealed, and then you can just run with it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think the saying is like you have to front load the work, right? So these like the founder and his wife, they sat in the intersections to count the number of cars. And I think, similarly, if we look at today, rather than sitting in intersections, we can use online tools to look at keyword search volume. Like I like to use Google Trends, especially like standing out the timeline to see what search terms are spiking. But I think that that makes a lot of sense. You got to front load the work to de-risk it, right? If the guy just like randomly plot down like a hotel at some random place and it didn't work out, we probably would never have Marriott as we see it today, right?
Well, Hilton's the same story, just working, saving every dime until he had enough to buy his first hotel, and then it just kind of took off from there. But same stories. So mindset. To answer your question, read some books about difficult times and what people did to inspire yourself. But it's not that bad. This is a good time for opportunity. So reframe that it's not negative, it's positive. Look, keep your eyes open. You'll see opportunity, and you can come out ahead.
Yeah. And then, like some people like liken it to that analogy of like car racing. It's like you don't pass people on the straightaway, you pass people on the curbs, right? On the turns, right? So right now we're going through this huge turn, like people can't go out, but at the same time, instead of, meeting offline, everyone's going virtual. I was listening to this one podcast recently where like the owner of like this business called like museum hacks, where like they would like hack like, you know, all these museums and do like a cool tour. Now like nobody can go to a museum. So like he checked out Google trends, and he found out that you know, one of the main reasons like companies were buying his service was for team building. It wasn't just tourists, right? So like now like he pivoted to like virtual team building, like online. There's like ways where people can do team building over Zoom. Like they're like telling stories, they're like doing like roasting marshmallows together. So I think that, you know, just based on like the online like search volume, he was able to pivot that business, because you would think like his revenue would drop to zero because nobody can go to museums anymore. But, you know, like he found out what exactly the customer pain point was like team building. And then he, he brought it virtually, you know, using tools like Zoom and whatnot. So I think that, you know, going back to your point, Jason, that makes perfect sense. You know, it's like, you know, with crisis comes opportunity. You know, times are changing. You know, people are spending more time at home, you know, with their families, with their kids. You know, I think
it's a massive shift.
Yeah, it's a huge shift. It's a huge shift.
And so people are living different, and they have to find different ways to do different things. And like your buddy with the museum, he'll now he's learned something, right? He's doing something he's never done before. And then another idea might build on top of that. Like, oh, if that works, maybe this will work too. And then, you know, after this is over, maybe he's actually ahead of where he was before because of these new ways to do things, right?
Right.
Interesting.
And then you mentioned that you and your team, I think you had a partner as well, you created a 3D printable mask. Can you tell us more about how you came up with that, and, you know, how that's going?
Yeah, so that's that was a customer. I think they're in Toronto, but I'm not really sure. But they just had an idea to make a face mask that you could 3D print and put standard coffee filters into it as the barrier. And it wouldn't be, I don't think it would be legal for for nurses and doctors to use, but for the average person, if you had a 3D printer, you could just print these files and then put some coffee filters in it, and at least that'll get you by if you wanted to use something, because right now it's impossible to buy any face masks anywhere. Where I am, I haven't seen any. But so yeah, the customer had this idea, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. But he was really adamant on making it like open source, and he doesn't want to charge for these things, and I fully agreed. So we did the design for free for him. We didn't charge him anything, and we just did it. And we said, here's the files, and then we made a blog on my JCAD website, engineering website, and my SEO guy, he SEO'd the page so that it would be easily searchable. And we promoted it a little bit. But yeah, if you wanted to download the 3D files and 3D print them, like maybe if you don't have a 3D printer, but you know somebody on your street does or something, right? You could say, hey, you know, print me a couple of these masks, and it's super cheap to 3D print with just a normal plastic.
Yeah.
And then that person can just drop them off in your mailbox or something. So yeah, I thought that was a really good idea. Smart idea. So they're free on the site. If anybody wants to download them, by all means, have them. They're just sitting there, and you download them, 3D print them, and then you can use them. Yeah.
What's the URL?
It's a long one. Let me see. Should I can I post it in the chat maybe, or?
I think you can. If not, you can send it to me. Yeah, I can post it in the chat, and we'll put it in the show notes as well.
Sure, I'll send it here.
Yeah.
Send it to you.
Yeah.
So
and
you have
I'll share this over email newsletter a few weeks.
What's that? Sorry.
Let me see if we have it here. Oh no, I was saying that we shared the URL over email. A couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it, Jason. Okay, let me just put it in the chat window in case anybody's interested. If you have access to a 3D printer, if you want to print 3D printable mask, I'll say not medical grade, not, you know, it's not for
yeah, it's probably not a certified
nurses,
thing.
Obviously.
I mean, we copied the shape of an N95, so it should fit the same way. and then
Yeah.
you put a
Yeah.
I don't know how many coffee filters you want. If you want to feel safe, maybe put 2 or 3 filters, and then you just put the plastic insert behind it, and then it holds it all together. And then it has these little tabs where you can put elastic band on it if you want, and you put it around your head. But yeah, I mean, use it if you want. It's hopefully it helps some people for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for sharing that. I just put it in the chat window for people to see. And then, Jason, I know you have team members all over the world. I'm curious, how are they being affected, and how's this affecting your business as well during COVID?
We're actually all celebrating because it's kind of funny because we all thought the same thing. Like they're all asking me, "What do you think's going to happen?" Before it happened, right? Do you think we're going to be we're going to slow down? And I just said, I didn't really think we were going to slow down because online businesses, I didn't think online would be that affected. And I also had some tricks up my sleeve for marketing it during the lockdown. I think that also plays into how busy we are right now. Such as, for example, I mailed out an email to every single client, just saying, "Hey, we're still open during this crisis." So people, like I said earlier, putting that banner on your website that, "Hey, we're still open," and blah blah blah. Not everybody's coming to your website, so there might be somebody on your email list that might have an idea in the back of their head for my business, prototyping something or making a picture of a house or whatever my businesses offer. They might be thinking about like, "Oh, maybe I want to do this," but then they get an email from me saying, "Hey, we're still open if you have anything to do." Then that had a flood of tons of people replying to that email. I have about 30,000 people on my email list, and hundreds of people replied to that email saying, actually, here's a project. So that kept us busy. And then this virtual tour stuff is keeping us really busy. So all my employees were actually, one guy had the most I've ever paid him in a month was March, by far, just like an extra 30% or something. And he's just like, "This is crazy." He goes, "The world's ending and I'm making the most money I've ever made." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, it's crazy, man." So we're not really affected at all, and we're all kind of just like really happy, and we feel really grateful, or fortunate that we're not affected, which is nice, I'll also say that they're all. I've met
your team members.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I think there's a little lag. We're talking over each other. I'm just curious, with your team members all over the world, I mean, have their towns or their countries been affected?
For sure.
In a way that it's affecting their work or their life? Yeah.
That was another joke between us is we were all like, we all have to stay home, but we've all been staying home for, I don't know, 7 years now. So it was like an inside joke between all of us. We'd email each other and when it all started. So that part hasn't really affected us, staying home part. Definitely there are countries, some of them are in Serbia, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Macedonia, these Eastern European countries. And those countries are affected, yeah. And they're telling me how their governments are handling the situation. And for the most part, it's all the same. Everybody's kind of just locking down and trying to stay as safe as you can. So, yeah, I mean, we're all in the same boat. We're all just working through it. But my goal as a business owner is to just keep them busy. So, and they're all busy, maxed out with busyness. So I feel like I'm doing my job, and they're doing a good job. So we're all just kind of like, yep, we'll just keep working through this, and when it's done, it's done.
Yeah. All right. And then, so we talked a little bit about the business side, and ways to identify new opportunities. What about just like your routine? Like some people, they struggle with staying productive. Some people are maybe like binging on Netflix and not really, or like just like worried about the news all the time. I'm guilty of this also. What do you do to stay productive and not fall into those rabbit holes?
Yeah, for sure. I see what you mean. Well, like, because I've been staying home for a long time, so I already have my routine. And my routine is basically I wake up and no alarm. That's a big thing. I can't have alarms, so I wake up when I want, but it's usually between 8 and 9 o'clock. And then the first thing I do is just check emails and answer emails and make sure everything's smooth. I do my customer follow-ups next. I follow any customer that reached out the day before as a lead that I didn't close the same day. I'm like reaching out to them and trying to close them today. And I have this customer routine that's I've refined it over years, and it's really, really effective. So for closing, like the close rate is really high compared to what it was when I was starting. So there's that customer routine for the first, say, half of the day. And then after that, in the afternoon, it's just like answering emails and customers and da-da-da. So it's a normal work day for me. But then after that, when I used to go out for dinner or go out for drinks or go for a walk with a friend or whatever I did in the evening, that's not happening anymore. So I read a lot. So I've always, for years now, I try to read 2 to 3 books a week. And so that's still on the table. So for me, that's the way I'm wired now. I don't even think about Netflix. What's the next book I want to read? And I just read the book. So it's pretty much, my routine is for work is no different. But then after, when it dies down in the evening, I'm reading books. I'm not really I'll watch movies here and there, but I'm mostly I just read books. I used to like going out and seeing friends. I'd rather do that, but now that's not an option, so I'll just read or like calling on the phone or FaceTiming friends is also the next best thing. So it hasn't really changed much. I've been like that for years now.
Right. Okay, interesting. And then talking about your customer routine, and you said that you had this system to boost your closing rates. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
We can go into depth, and this is like super hardcore. Sometimes I show people what I do step by step, and they're just like, "How did you even come up with this?" I should almost make like a graphic that just kind of says, "This is if customer goes here, then it goes here," because it's going to look like spaghetti because it just goes everywhere. But but customer, I get a lead, right? Either the phone rings or my email gets a lead, and that goes into a CRM. And that customer either turns into non-responsive, responded but didn't quote, or quoted. And what that means is, non-responsive means they called me or inquired, and I said, okay, well, send me some project info. If we were engineering something or we're doing a rendering of a house or something, depending on what business, it's kind of the same thing. So they're going to say, I'm going to say, okay, send me some project info and I can price it for you. And then if they're non-responsive, they just never send me that info, and that's fine. If they might send me info that I can't use, so I respond saying, I can't use this. Can you send me this info? And then that means they've responded but not quoted, right? I haven't quoted them yet. Then there's other customers that send me the info, I quote it, and I'm waiting for them to close, right? And during day, so that's day one, customers come in that way, okay? During day one, if they're non-responsive, I'll send them an email that's blank, except for the subject line just says, did you get my first email? So if they're non-responsive, they get this email some point during the day if they didn't respond yet. At least an hour later. I give them about an hour, and then I'll start sending these emails out. And I could automate this, but did you get my first email? And I just started doing this 2 weeks ago. I comma and I added their first name, and that's more effective because it used to be, did you get my first email? ? Send. And then I noticed when I added, obviously when you add the first name, you get more responsive, right? So did you get my first email, right. Gary? ? Right? And then tons of people respond to that now. So that's just that little hack probably boosts my revenue 20% because I wasn't doing that for years. I wasn't sending that, did you get my first email? The same day they're a lead, right? I would wait the next day or 2 days and then follow up with them like, hey, I sent you an email a couple days ago. They forgot, or they're working with somebody else by now, right? So sending that I'd say out of all those emails I sent, half of them respond to that saying, no, I didn't, or yes, I did, sorry, I need more time, or whatever excuse, right? Then they turn into, they're a lead that's responded but not quoted, right? So that's day one, and I'm trying to close as many of those as I can. I'm trying to filter them down to become quoted or closed. On day two, the first thing I do on day two is go to the day one leads, and I send another email to non-responsive saying, hey, you contacted us yesterday, and this is a canned response. You contacted us yesterday about doing a 3D rendering project. You didn't answer. I sent you a couple of emails about and then here's some example work of what we can do, and we're a 4.7 star Google review, all this credibility and information about the company, right? Send, and then I get a lot of people responding to that. And then people that responded but didn't send info to quote, I'll send them another canned response saying, you contacted us yesterday. I asked you for this information. I haven't received it yet. Do you think you can send it today, right? And then a lot of people respond to that. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about you yesterday. Here it is. And then I can quote it. That they bump down to the quote, right? And then the people that quoted, I say, so in all quotes, I put $100 coupon, and in all quotes. But I say it expires today, right? So you have to order today. And so I'll respond to those people I've quoted, and I say, hey, yesterday we quoted your project. There was a $100 coupon in it. It expires today. So did you want to pull the trigger today, basically, right? So this is all like professionally worded. It's not what I'm saying now. It sounds all professional. So a lot of people respond to that saying, either they respond saying, I'm not going to be able to start today. Can you extend the coupon for a couple of days? Or I won't be able to start for another month. Or yeah, I can start right now. How do I pay? So it's just getting these customers to respond, getting them in communication, right? And that's on day two. Then I have a follow-up thing I do on day 5. So I'll search my email I'll label them as quote or non-responsive or inquired. And then I just search. So 5 days after, so day 1, day 2, and then day 5, I'll look at all those customers on day 5 and send them all an email. This is also boosted my revenue, maybe 10%. All it says is your project canceled? And that's it. And it's also what I tweaked it a little bit. So I used to say, is your project canceled? But then I realized 5 days later, people are like, who's this? What project? What are you talking about? So I added in, is your engineering project canceled? If it's for JCAD. If it's for the rendering company, is your 3D rendering project canceled? Then they'll know who I am, right? And they'll remember, oh yeah, this guy from a few days ago. So I just say, is your 3D rendering project canceled? Is your engineering project canceled? Send. That's it. And then tons of people respond to that saying, oh my God, no, it's not canceled. Actually, it's late now. I forgot about it. I got to get it done. How do I pay? How do I get started? So that's on day 5. I found day 5 is the best to get that. Now, in the background, there's an email drip series that their emails get entered into. And on day 6, they start getting like welcome packages to this company. Here's what we can do for you. Here's so assuming they're customers. And then they get maybe, I think it's like 12 emails or something over the next 3 or 4 months. Every few days they get another email kind of warming them up to what this company can do for them and that kind of stuff. So all this stuff they're getting not like, I wouldn't say bombarded, but they're getting that within the first 48 hours, 24 hours actually, is like, do you want to buy or not? Are you a customer or not? And it's really pushed. Not being a pushy salesman, but just the attitude is like, you contacted us. Do you want to do this or not? Like, why did you contact us if you're not ready to go? So that's kind of the message I'm sending, and that kind of gets people moving. And then down the road, months later, other people that weren't ready, because I'm still emailing them, the drip series is still going out. They remember who I am. And so many customers comment on that, and they say, you're the company that always I'm getting emails from all the time. And I'm like, yeah, probably. Like, we send out emails and coupons and stuff. So they remember, right? And
what do you send them during the drip series? I'm curious.
The drip series, email 1 is like, we'll say for the engineering company is email 1 is just like, welcome to JCAD. This is what we can do. We turn your projects to life. You have an idea for a prototype, but maybe it's a phone case or some kind of card part or whatever it is. You have an idea for something. and then this is how it works. So we kind of, because a lot of people are like, well, how do you do that? So we make it really easy, and we say we just need a sketch of whatever it is. If it's a phone case, for example, somebody has an idea for a phone case, they make a sketch, and then so I show them a typical sketch that we got from a customer. Then we turn it into a 3D file, and here's an example of a 3D file, and then here's a 3D printed prototype, and there's an example. So I show them step 1, step 2, step 3, right? And then it kind of opens their mind, like, oh, okay. I just need to give him a sketch, and he can turn it into actual part that he can send to me, right? So that's email 1. Email 2 is I wrote a book, and it's on Amazon of how to prototype a product idea. So email 2 is like, if you want, there's a book on Amazon, or it's on my website for free too. So I'm like, click here if you just want to read it for free, or you can buy it from Amazon. But it's kind of credibility. Like our CEO wrote a book about this, so we know what we're doing. You can read about it here if you like. Email 3 is I think it's another example of a project that we did for another client that we manufactured thousands of parts from, and so it's just kind of educating the client how things work, what we've done for other clients, and showing them how to do this, because it's kind of a difficult thing. So yeah, and it goes on and on. And there's like, JCAT did this, and we can do this for you, and here's another client. We had a client recently, maybe about a year ago, that was on TV with her product, a dog toy, and we manufactured thousands of those. We just shipped her some more, 8,000 more parts last week from China. And so she was on TV. So it was kind of like, hey, check this out. One of our clients went on TV with a product we made for her. We designed it, prototype, and now we're manufacturing for her. So she's kind of showing the clients that this is also possible for you. If you have an idea and it's a good idea, and people want it, well, we can manufacture it for you. You can sell thousands of parts, and you can go on TV maybe, right?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, this the social proof, right? I have seen on social TV proof, credibility. Yeah.
So it's just thinking of these email drip series, I guess, in summary, is thinking what your clients want to learn about your business, and then answering those questions preemptively in your email series, educating them, giving them value, making them want to open your emails. You don't want to, no customer wants to open an email and there's a big like buy now button. Like, no, like calm down. Like, what do you guys do first? Like, how can you help me as a customer? So think from a customer's point of view. What do they want to learn about your business? What value can you offer them? Information. A lot of customers just want more information, right? They're not ready right now, but they want to get educated on how to pick the best photographer or the best landscaper or the best whatever. So give them that information. Teach them what you do and why you are the best.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right. Okay. So shifting gears a little bit, I mean, if you were to look forward in our crystal ball, like what do you see happening in the next couple months, with the whole situation here? I mean, at least from your perspective, Jason, I'm just curious.
Yeah. It's really hard to say. I think there's definitely going to be like a pretty deep recession for a while. The governments are talking about a strong bounce back, but I watched a podcast last night. It was pretty interesting. And the girl on the podcast, the guest, was saying how a lot of people are over leveraged. Like, a lot of people don't have any savings, or they're kind of caught with their pants down on this whole thing. They're just, a lot of people are in a lot of debt, and it's just in the culture. We haven't had a bad time to kind of wake us up. Since the Great Depression. Like, I remember my grandparents, maybe your grandparents too. You remember they're way more frugal minded. Like, no, you don't need that. This kind of mentality. Whereas my parents' generation were a little less frugal than that, and I'm pretty balanced, I guess. But my generation and then the millennial generation is the younger generation. They haven't experienced anything bad where they've ever had to come up with, pay their rent for 6 months without a job. It hasn't existed for so long. So a lot of people are caught off guard. And what happens with that is, in the podcast, they brought up a good point, was when things go back to normal, that's going to be in the back of people's minds. Why didn't I save for so many years so I didn't have to have such a bad time during this time, not working and not having enough money? Like, right now, there's nothing to spend money on. But in whenever it starts up again, and then there is things to spend money on, and you're looking for a job, and things are back to normal, and the government isn't giving you so much money anymore because now it's like, go get a job. That's going to be difficult. And so people probably won't be rushing back to go out to ball games and restaurants and traveling the world and, vacation in Italy for the summer. That probably won't be happening because people are going to be thinking a little smarter. Like, I need to save for next time because this will happen again, right? Maybe not another virus, but some kind of economic thing. So I think that's probably going to happen. It'll be a slower recovery than we think. I think it's not going to be roaring back. I think it'll be slower, and hopefully it ends peacefully. What I really don't like is all the what I'm seeing is a lot of American propaganda towards China, and China hit it, and all these things about like China, what China did wrong. But I'm like, you got to be careful what you're saying here because you're dividing people. And the same thing happened during World War II, with the Nazis and the Jews. And you got to be careful how they're. It's getting kind of dangerous how they're kind of saying China did. They're saying China did some bad things, but they got to prove those things actually happened, and I don't think they happened. So they got to be careful with the American mentality of targeting China, that it's China's fault. Like, no, calm down. China did a pretty good job of handling what happened here, and it might be America's fault that it just exploded in America, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, pointing fingers isn't the most constructive thing to do
that's
right
what
now.
happens when people lose a lot of things. If you look at history, when people lose a lot of things, they don't want to point their finger at themselves like, well, I didn't save enough money, or I did this wrong or that wrong. They want to point at somebody else. Well, it's your fault this happened, not mine, right? So if people lose a lot of things here, they're going to be looking for somebody to point a finger at. And I can sense in Ray Dalio, I don't know if you know Ray Dalio, Principles. He wrote that book. So he was in a podcast the other day, and he was saying the same thing, that the pointing the finger at China, the American finger pointing at China, that this is all your fault, it can get very dangerous. So that has to be talked about more. I think that we need to calm down with pointing the finger and take some responsibility for what's going on, right?
Right. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Jason. I really appreciate your time. But not to end on a down note, what would be the number one recommendation that you like to make to our viewers today? For people that are going through tough times and still trying to grow their business to 7 figures.
I'd say that the number one thing, the good mentality, and I got this from a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and it's a really good book about fear. And basically the main message is whatever happens, well, people say don't panic, right? Just don't panic, calm down, stay calm, relax. And that's great. Okay, say it, but how do you do it, right? And the way you do it is realize that you will handle whatever happens. So I'm 39 years old. I've handled whatever happened for 39 years. It's not like my life's been perfect for 39 years. There's been ups and downs. And when it went down, I handled it. And now I'm up, and then down and then up, right? So this is a down for a lot of people, but realize that don't panic because you will handle it. And maybe what a good exercise to do is make a list of, what if I lose my job? What if I get laid off? What if my business closes? What if all these bad things? What if these things? What if I get the virus? All these things, what if these things happen? But then beside each one, you just say, I'll handle it, right? Because you will. What other choice do you have? You have to handle it. And you will handle it. It's not like you're just going to shut off. You're going to handle it. So I think that it gives you it makes people feel empowered when you know that you are in charge. You can handle it. It's whatever happens is whatever happens is you're able to handle it. That's just how it is. And that thing that I said about however old you are, you've handled it for that many years. So why would you just stop handling it now? You will handle it. Whatever happens, right? I think that's a good message. I remind myself of that sometimes too. That whatever happens, if my business slows down, I'll handle it. I'll figure it out. It's not the end of the world.
100%. All right, that's excellent. And Jason, for those of you that want to connect to Jason, what would be the best way?
The best way is you can email me, jasonvander@gmail.com, or you can get in touch with me on Instagram. It's just my name, Jason Vander Griendt, or my website, actually, jasonvandergriendt.com. I'm giving away 39. I have a 39 lessons program that I was charging $39 for before, but I'm just saying it's free. Have it if you want to have it because of the COVID crisis. So what was happening was interesting is a lot of people were reaching out, I'm kind of panicking because things are slowing down. What should I do with my business? What should I do about this or that? And I just said, here, it's lesson number 14, have the lesson and learn. Here, it's lesson number 28, learn the lesson, learn. So I just started giving it out. So I shut it off, the payment stuff, and just whoever wants to have it, have it. And I think you sent it out to your email list a few days ago, and hundreds of people signed up. And it's kind of interesting that I finished this program, this 39 lessons program, and it's the 39 things I wish I knew when I was starting in business. And I was marketing it a couple of years ago when I finished it, and it was like people were trickling in, like but now there's like floods of people like want to learn now when it's panic time, right? So they have a motivation to learn. It's kind of funny. So I mean, if you want it, have it, and you can get in touch with me through that site too.
So we did send it out by email, but for those of the people that are watching that missed it, can you share the URL again?
To the free lessons.
Yeah, to the 39 lessons.
I'm going to send it to you right now.
Okay.
Here we go.
So I think this is super valuable. I mean, like Jason distilled a lot of his best practices and mistakes that he made along the way into 39 lessons. And, he's very generous to offer this for free during COVID-19. So I think that, for those of you guys watching, I'm going to type this in the chat. I mean, I think it's.
Yeah. So like a lot of the things I talked about, not that I was even promoting it, but just a lot of the things I talked about in the 39 lessons or in this chat is in the 39 lessons, how I close sales, how I do my email drip series, like all this stuff is in there. So, I mean, if you watch these videos, you'll learn a lot, pretty much everything I do. I just kind of filtered it down and just here's how I do this and here's how I do that. And this is what I used to do and this is what I do now. And I don't do it like this anymore for these reasons. And it's I send you the link to the 39 topics too. So I don't know if you want to see that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
okay.
It's designed to help my younger self get started. So hopefully it helps you too.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, we really appreciate your time, Jason. Thank you so much. And it's great to see you and good to see that you're doing well. So stay safe and we'll keep in touch. We'll talk soon. All right.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.